2000, our nation's population increased from 166 million to 276 million. If you took the patient per capita ratio that existed in 1955 and extrapolated it on the basis of the new population, you'd expect to find 930,000 patients in state mental hospitals. But there are fewer than 55,000 in them today. Where are the others? Nearly 300,000 are in jails and prisons. Another 500,000 are on court-ordered probation. The largest public mental health facility in America is not a hospital. It's the Los Angeles County Jail. On any given day, it houses 3,000 mentally disturbed inmates. These statistics gave me an idea, but before I pursued it, I wanted to talk with Mike. I'm thinking about writing a book about the criminalization of the mentally ill, I told him. Okay, he replied. Mike, I want to make certain you understand what I'm going to do. I want to write about you and how you got into trouble with the law. Do you think people will want to read that? He sounded surprised. It would be more than just your story. I outlined my plan. I would write about his mental breakdown and how it had led to his being arrested. But I'd fold his personal story into a much larger one, an examination of the mental health system in America today. In order to do this, I'd find a jail in a major city far away from where Mike had been arrested, and I'd spend time inside its cell blocks observing mentally ill prisoners. I'd select individual inmates to shadow, monitor their criminal cases through the courts, and follow them into the community. I'd interview correctional officers, public defenders, prosecutors, judges, mental health care professionals, and the police. I'd talk to parents, siblings, and spouses. I'd consult historians about how the mentally ill have been treated over the decades and centuries, and I'd question the civil rights lawyers who fought to pass laws to protect them. I'd meet with legislators and state hospital administrators. But my main focus would always be on the jail and the prisoners there. I'd use it as a microcosm. It would serve as my hub, much like the center of an old Western wagon wheel. The inmates whose lives I would chronicle would be the spokes jutting out from it. Could I be objective? Probably not. I'm a father first, a journalist second. But I could be honest and thorough and relentless. Mike was still taking strong doses of antipsychotic medication when I first mentioned my idea to him, and I could tell by his reaction that he was having trouble focusing on what I'd just said. You're more important than any book, I explained. I don't want to write anything that might harm you or limit your future. I'll forget about doing this if you want me to. He didn't seem to understand how a book might hurt him, so I explained that writing about his illness could stigmatize him. I'm not interested in making you a poster child for mental illness. He was quiet for several moments and then said, If a book will help other people understand what it's like to get sick and be arrested, then do it. Are you sure? If it helps someone else, yes. We talked about using his name. To my surprise, he wanted me to print it. You've got to be honest, he said. But I was still hesitant. We compromised by agreeing to use his middle name. It would be a thin veil. I was still nervous that Mike might not really understand the impact of what I was proposing. I couldn't predict what might happen in the future, 5, 10 years from now, after I outed him in this book. Dad, he said, tell my story. I'll let you read it. You can go over the parts about you. No, I don't want to do that, he replied firmly. I trust you to tell the truth. This book tells 2 stories. The first is Mike's. The second describes what I learned during a year-long investigation inside the Miami-Dade County Jail in Miami, Florida, a city that's home to a larger percentage of mentally ill residents than any other major metropolitan area in America. I was given the complete run of the jail, its inmates and employees, with no restrictions. Although the portrait that follows was taken from a single jail, it could just as easily have been a snapshot of any community in America. For privacy reasons, I have used pseudonyms to identify most of the inmates. The exceptions are my son and prisoners whose cases have already been heavily publicized. All the characters in this book are real, and I have not changed any other facts about them. Their voices, and those of all the other people in this book, lawyers, law enforcement officials, doctors, social workers, family, who are attempting to thread their way through the mental health maze in America, are reported accurately. There have been many books by professionals and journalists writing from the outside looking in. There have been many books by patients and inmates writing from the inside looking out. This book attempts to do both. If you belong to any of the groups mentioned above, I hope the book provides some extra light and clarity to the situations you face every day. If you do not, I hope it will inspire you to action, for the stories told here in this day and age are extraordinary and worthy of your attention. If it could happen to my family, it could happen to yours. Chapter 1. Mike's Story 1. "How would you feel, Dad," Mike asked, "if someone you loved killed himself?" It was not a threat delivered in anger. Rather, my son's voice was tired. I was speeding south along Interstate 95, driving from New York City to Virginia. We were a couple of miles north of Baltimore. For the past few hours I had been begging Mike to take Zyprexa, a medicine prescribed for mental disorders. "Pills are poison," Mike snapped. "Doctors don't know what they're talking about. I just think differently." I had first learned that he was slipping earlier that morning. "Something's wrong," his older brother had telephoned from Manhattan to tell me. Since that call, I'd discovered Mike's dementia actually had become obvious several weeks before, when he'd found a videocassette on the sidewalk while walking to a subway near Times Square. It was Oliver Stone's movie Heaven and Earth, a gut-wrenching account by a Vietnamese woman about the fighting there and its aftermath. Mike had watched it 3 times, and he had become convinced it contained a secret message aimed at him. "As soon as you see it, everything will make sense," he told me. "You'll see." I pressed harder on the gas pedal and again suggested he take a Zyprexa tablet. "Okay," he finally declared. "I'll take your damn pill." But he paused just before he slipped the tablet into his mouth. "Please, God," I silently prayed, "swallow it." As I watched, he took a gulp of water from a plastic bottle that I'd given him, but when he wiped his lips dry with his sleeve, I noticed his hand drop down next to the car seat, and he shook it. Was that the pill? "No one dies unless God wants him dead," he announced. "Did Patty's first husband choose to die?" I asked. Patty was my wife, his stepmother. Her first husband had died from cancer, making her a widow with 4 children. My question annoyed him, so he ignored me. For several moments, neither of us spoke. And then, suddenly, his thoughts came in rapid fire, bouncing from topic to topic without any apparent connection. God, capitalism, Satan, comic books, sex, spontaneous laughter. Mike saw an encrypted message and a bumper sticker on the blue sedan ahead of us. "Believe in him." It was a signal from God, he told me. They were everywhere, but only he could interpret them. Just as quickly, Mike began to cry. Tears flowed from his eyes, and he moaned as if he were an injured animal that had been struck by a car and knocked sprawling into a roadside ditch. The last time I'd seen him in such agony was when he was 5 years old and he got smacked in the head with a stick while playing with friends. The 1-inch gash in his scalp had turned his silky blonde hair crimson and sent him screaming to find me. Now he was 23. "Why are you crying?" "I can't tell you." "Why can't you tell me?" "Because you'll hate me forever." Patty had already alerted the emergency room at Inova Fairfax Hospital, near where we lived. It was where we'd gone when he'd suffered his first psychotic episode.